Why do prices for cars, appliances, and even building materials swing so wildly? The answer often comes down to tariffs, taxes on imported goods that ripple through the economy and land on your shopping cart. These decisions made in Washington directly affect families, farmers, and small businesses across America. The recent tariff battle is a powerful reminder: global trade policy isn't just abstract politics, it shapes our daily lives. The core debate: are tariffs a shield for American jobs, or a self-inflicted wound that raises prices and sparks retaliation? This question exploded into national focus, culminating in a Supreme Court showdown over who really controls America's trade policy. The legal fight wasn't just about economics, it was about the constitutional power to impose tariffs and the balance between the president and Congress. The outcome would set a precedent for how America navigates the global economy for years to come. A tariff is essentially a tax placed on goods that are brought into a country from abroad. When a product crosses a border, the government may charge an extra fee, known as a tariff, before it can be sold in local markets. This fee is usually paid by the importer, but it often gets passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices. The main purpose of a tariff is to make foreign products more expensive, so that American-made goods become more attractive to buyers. By raising the cost of imports, tariffs encourage people to buy products made in the United States, supporting local businesses and jobs. Historically, tariffs were not just about protecting industries, they were also a crucial source of money for the federal government, especially before income taxes existed. In the 1800s and early 1900s, tariffs funded everything from infrastructure to national defense, while also shielding young American industries from foreign competition. There are several types of tariffs. The most common is the ad valorem tariff, which is calculated as a percentage of the product's value. For example, a 10% ad valorem tariff on a $100 item would add $10 to its cost. Another type is the specific tariff, which is a fixed fee charged for each unit of a product regardless of its price. For instance, a $2 tariff on every imported shirt, whether it's cheap or expensive. There's also the compound tariff, which combines both methods, a percentage of value plus a fixed fee per unit. This approach gives policymakers more flexibility in targeting certain products or industries. The choice of tariff type depends on what the government wants to achieve. Some tariffs offer stability and predictability, while others allow for more flexibility in response to changing economic conditions or trade relationships. Over time, tariffs have changed dramatically. In the early 20th century, they were high and designed to protect American jobs, but after the Great Depression, the U.S. slashed tariffs to help revive the global economy and encourage international trade. After World War II, the United States led the world in lowering trade barriers, helping to create decades of economic growth and prosperity. International agreements like GATT and the WTO aim to make trade fairer and more open. Even today, tariffs are sometimes used as a tool for special situations, such as punishing countries for unfair trade practices or protecting industries that are considered vital to national security or the economy. In recent years, the U.S. has seen a sharp increase in tariffs, signaling a return to protectionist policies. This has sparked heated debates about the benefits and drawbacks of free trade versus protecting American industries. This shift has led to rising tensions both at home and abroad, as countries respond with their own tariffs and trade barriers. America's trade policy has once again become a major battleground with far-reaching consequences. The stakes are high. Tariffs can affect jobs, the prices you pay at the store, and America's role in the global economy. They can help some industries, but may also lead to higher costs for consumers and strained international relationships. Understanding tariffs isn't just for economists or politicians, it's key to understanding the forces that shape your wallet, your job prospects, and the prices you see every day. Tariffs are more than just taxes. They're a powerful tool that shapes the world around us. The Trump administration broke with decades of trade policy, using tariffs as a blunt instrument to renegotiate global deals. The argument America was losing jobs and running huge trade deficits, especially with China, tariffs on steel and aluminum, citing national security, hit even close allies, sparking controversy. A trade war with China followed, with tariffs on hundreds of billions in goods. The administration's boldest move, proposing a sweeping 30% tariff on nearly all imports from a major trading partner, again citing national security. The scale was unprecedented, threatening to disrupt every sector of the U.S. economy. The goal forced concessions from trading partners and protect American industries, even if it meant bypassing international rules. This aggressive approach set the stage for a constitutional clash over the limits of presidential power. Supporters of the tariff saw them as a lifeline for American manufacturing and national security. They blamed decades of free trade for lost jobs and a massive trade deficit, but backlash was swift. Economists warned tariffs would raise prices for consumers and trigger retaliation against U.S. exports. Farmers especially suffered as foreign markets closed to their products. Most manufacturers reliant on imported materials faced higher costs and lost competitiveness. The business community split, some cheered, most feared chaos in global supply chains. Legally, critics argued the administration was stretching the definition of national security to justify economic protectionism. The central question: could the president use national security as a catch-all excuse to impose tariffs? This legal challenge would soon reach the Supreme Court, turning a trade fight into a constitutional showdown. The stakes were no longer just economic, they were about the very structure of American government. The legal fight began when a coalition of American businesses, feeling the impact of new tariffs, decided to take their battle to the courts. They filed lawsuits aiming to block the tariffs, arguing that the president had overstepped constitutional bounds and disrupted the balance of power established by the founders. For many business owners, these tariffs meant higher costs, uncertainty, and a threat to their livelihoods, fueling their determination to challenge the administration's actions. Their central argument was rooted in the Constitution itself. According to the document, the power to regulate trade and impose taxes is granted specifically to Congress, not the president. This separation of powers was designed to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful, especially when it comes to matters as significant as the nation's economic policy. The plaintiffs claimed that Congress, by passing Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, had effectively handed too much of its own authority to the executive branch. This section allows the president to act if imports threaten national security, but the challengers argued that the law was too vague and gave the president almost unlimited discretion. Critics of the law pointed out that it lacked clear limits or definitions, making it possible for the president to use national security as a broad justification for imposing tariffs on a wide range of goods. This, they said, opened the door to potential abuse and undermined the role of Congress. In response, government attorneys argued that the law provided sufficient guidance and that, especially on issues of national security, courts should defer to the president's judgment. They maintained that the executive branch needed flexibility to respond quickly to threats, and that Congress had acted within its rights by delegating this authority. Lower courts ultimately sided with the administration, citing old legal precedents that allowed Congress to delegate certain powers to the president, particularly in areas involving foreign affairs and national defense. But the plaintiffs refused to give up. They argued that the scale and use of national security had changed dramatically in recent years, and that unchecked executive power now posed a real threat to democratic oversight and accountability. Recognizing the gravity of the constitutional questions at stake, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case. This move signaled just how important the issue was for the future balance of power between Congress and the president. The stage was set for a landmark decision, one that would determine who truly controls America's trade policy and how far executive power can reach in the name of national security. In the Supreme Court, the debate was fierce. Should the president have broad power to impose tariffs, or must Congress set clear limits? This question struck at the very heart of the American system of checks and balances, raising concerns about how much authority one branch of government should wield over the nation's economic future. Business groups argued passionately that the Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the ultimate power over trade and taxes. They pointed to the clear language in the Constitution, emphasizing that only Congress has the authority to regulate commerce with foreign nations and to levy taxes. These groups warned that if the president could invoke vague national security claims, it would open the door for any president to bypass Congress entirely, potentially reshaping the entire economy with little oversight or accountability. They feared this could set a dangerous precedent, undermining the careful balance of power. The justices pressed both sides with tough questions. How far could the concept of national security really go? Could it be stretched to justify tariffs on virtually any product or industry, regardless of the actual threat? Could it justify tariffs on anything, or are there meaningful limits that must be respected to prevent abuse of power? The government, on the other hand, insisted that the president needs the flexibility to act quickly in a dangerous and unpredictable world. They argued that the law already provides enough guidance to prevent misuse, and that swift executive action is sometimes necessary to protect national interests. Relying on historical precedent, government lawyers pointed to past instances where presidents had imposed tariffs for national security reasons, but some justices questioned whether the current use of tariffs had gone far beyond what Congress originally intended when it passed the law. The arguments revealed a deep and fundamental divide between the need for executive agility in times of crisis and the importance of maintaining strong legislative authority to prevent overreach. Ultimately, the court faced a profound decision. Where is the line between necessary presidential action and unconstitutional overreach? Their ruling would not only affect this case, but set a precedent for future conflicts between the branches of government. The answer would reshape the balance of power in American trade policy, influencing how the United States responds to global economic challenges for years to come. The Supreme Court's decision landed with historic force. In a 6-3 ruling, the court blocked the administration's sweeping new tariffs, calling them an unconstitutional overreach. The court didn't strike down Section 232, but narrowed its interpretation. Only true national security threats, not broad economic concerns, could justify tariffs. The ruling immediately halted the proposed tariffs, bringing relief to businesses and consumers. The majority said Congress must set clear rules. The president can't have a blank check. Dissenting justices warned this could tie future presidents' hands in real crises. The decision drew a sharp new line between executive power and congressional authority. The ruling sent markets soaring. Uncertainty lifted and stocks of import-heavy companies jumped. Consumers dodged a major price hike. The average household avoided a $1,200 annual hit. Businesses could plan again, no longer fearing sudden sweeping tariffs. But not everyone cheered. Steel and aluminum producers warned of job losses, and unions feared a flood of cheap imports. Farmers saw hope for new negotiations to end retaliatory tariffs abroad. The decision highlighted the trade-offs: lower prices for most, but pain for some industries. The future of U.S. trade policy was suddenly wide open. The question: could Congress and the White House now craft a stable, effective strategy? The Supreme Court's ruling closed one chapter in America's tariff wars, but opened another. The power to set broad trade policy now rests squarely with Congress, not the president alone. Any sweeping tariffs will require new laws and public debate, not just executive orders. The fundamental fight between protectionism and free trade is back in Congress's hands. The challenge? Can a divided government forge a coherent, long-term trade strategy? America's economic future and your shopping cart hangs in the balance. The next moves will shape the nation's place in the global economy for years to come.